And good evening, everybody over at YouTube. This is the Izzyverse. Welcome to the Izzyverse. This is your host, Izzy, and we're going to have a blast today. We're going to be talking about our favorite holiday specials. I'm going to be joined with my good friend, Achilles, and we're going to be talking about our favorite holiday movies, our favorite Christmas movies, everything that you have. And we're hoping that you'll join us in the chat. We're going to keep the chat streams live so that we could chat along with everybody here. And we're just going to have a blast just talking about our favorite movies. It's not exactly a top 10 or top 5, but we are going to tell you what our favorites are. We're also going to mention some honorable mentions as well, and some new holiday classics. And what are the new holiday classics? We'll find out today. But let me go ahead and introduce to you my good pal, Achilles, complete from the Wawa. Look at that. You got the Wawa.
Well, yeah, once I saw how festive you had your stuff there in the background, I was like, oh,
you got the sweater going. You got the red sweater going on, and your background's kind of
green. I mean, it's Quakertown.
There you go.
Swimming.
Quakertown.
Gotta represent.
All right, guys. So if you are watching the stream, the chats are open. If you're on YouTube, you are welcome to leave a super chat, a tip, a sticker. Of any value. That's how you can support this channel. You can support this channel in many different ways. I also have a Patreon. If you go to patreon.com Izzyverse, you'll be able to support the Izzyverse from there. But dude, we got so many Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus for the rest of us. I do have a poll. I have a Festus poll. And tell me a little bit about this season for you. What does it mean to you?
So for me, the season is, me growing up. My mom had 6 kids. There were 6 of us, so Christmas was always. I can't speak for my siblings. I think they all had their own interpretation, but for me, I really bought into the thing of the Christmas spirit, that everybody around the world, in my mind, was celebrating Christmas, and that it was all about like the giving and stuff. So when people even say now, like, oh, it's so commercial, it's so this, but the movies that I loved, the shows that I watched that I loved, like Charlie Brown with that scrawny tree, like it was always about the spirit of Christmas. So I really, for me, the Christmas season, the holiday season overall is just something that I love because it hopefully brings out the best in everybody.
Yeah, and same thing here. I'm obviously, Christmas is what we celebrate in my household. We've been celebrating it for as long as I can remember. For us as a Puerto Rican household, we start late at midnight. So at midnight is when we start opening presents. I don't know if that's the same case for you, Achilles, but in my household, at midnight we open presents. We have dinner on Christmas Eve, and we open presents on midnight. And the next day is just enjoying the presents. That's pretty much what the next day is, enjoying the presents. And one of the things that me and my family have been doing recently has been in the last few years, we're actually going to the movies. We'll go check out a movie or something like that
on Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day.
Okay.
Because again, we're not we had our dinner on Christmas Eve, and then on Christmas Day we could enjoy a movie and then have some leftovers or enjoy whatever else we have enjoyed throughout the previous day.
Now for me, also growing up, being Puerto Rican, we also celebrated Three Kings on January 6th.
Yes, we did too.
So it was just this extended holiday season that I mean, it was never like any wow gifts or anything like that. At that point my mom was so broke, but she always managed. You had to put a little box with the hay for the camels or the
Yeah.
donkeys or whatever it was that they had to eat. But I when I worked at a movie theater in high school, yeah, Christmas Day is the biggest movie day of the year, I believe.
Yeah, and this year we have Avatar, so that's
Yeah.
probably going to be the movie I'm going to go see. I'm not that Avatar to me is like any other movie. I don't see the big hype of Avatar. It looks nice, but doesn't have the same poof that the other movies have. But we're not here to talk about Avatar. We're here to talk about Christmas. But you did mention Three Kings Day, and Three Kings Day in our household, the also known as the Epiphany, you know, is also a big deal for my mom. She loves having presents, and just like you, it's like kind of like the smaller presents you get on Three Kings Day. But another thing is that you get this loaf of bread, and in this loaf of bread, it's kind of weird. But in this loaf of bread, you have to find there's a little statuette, like a little baby statuette of baby Jesus. And the idea is before you eat the loaf of bread, you got to find the baby Jesus. I don't get it. And the last few years, we've been getting the loaf of breads, and they don't have just one baby Jesus. There's like a few baby Jesus. It's like clones of baby Jesus in the loaf of bread. So it's a weird thing. It's a traditional thing. I have to look up exactly what it means, but yeah, that it is a thing. So it's I don't know. We'll see what's up. Anyway, let's talk about the movies. Right? So we're not going to go deep into like the TV specials. So
Right.
unfortunately, we don't I don't we well, we could spend all day talking, but I think you and I both want to go to bed at a good time. Um we could talk about Rudolph, we could talk about Charlie Brown, we could talk about Frosty, Santa Claus is coming to town. Anything that's on freeform right now, the 25 days of Christmas, um, we could talk all day because I love all of them. I really do. The only one I don't love is I think it's Frosty Returns, which is a very strange cartoon. It's not the one where it's not Winter Wonderland where he meets his wife, Crystal. Um, and they get
I
married.
haven't seen them. I have Frosty. I loved the
Yeah.
original. I loved it. Frosty Returns. I remember being disappointed by it.
Well, Frosty
Um,
Returns is very, very weird. It's an 80s cartoon. It was done in the 80s. It was definitely done in the 80s. And the premise was that there was a rich tycoon, of course, the 80s rich tycoon. And this rich tycoon found he found the way to get rid of snow by vaporizing it with a can of spray. So the can of spray would vaporize the snow. And of course, it was supposed to be like environmental, anti, all that stuff. And I'm watching, and it's just so bad. It is really bad. And Frosty's just he's kind of like a stalker in a way because he just happens to be there. He's just there. Hey guys, how you doing? It's me, Frosty, and he's talking to he's breaking the fourth wall. It was very, very weird. Not the best. Um, but that's all I got to talk about when it comes to those. So let's go ahead and get ready. And when I was looking for a photo of you, Achilles, I found this one, and I just said this is like the perfect holiday photo.
yeah. Yeah. I like that picture. It is a selfie. It doesn't look like one, but yeah,
You're
definitely.
like, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start talking about the movies. The first movie we're gonna talk about is a personal favorite for both of us. It is my number one favorite Christmas movie. Number one favorite holiday movie. It is the movie I have to see every year. And worst of all, the rest of my family do not want to see this movie. um, for them, it's like I can't. No, but for me, it is my absolute favorite. As you can see, I got the bunny shirt of Ralphie. Um, Tell me what's your thoughts of Christmas Story?
I think Christmas Story, um, I put it up there with movies like, let's say, Shawshank Redemption, where every scene you're like, oh my god, I love this scene. Every scene has its own little um, piece of the story to tell. It's got its own little joke. It resonates. So with this one for the Christmas Story, as you watch the movie, it doesn't. It's not just going like this one idea that keeps being shown in different ways. So there's just so much that's relatable. The gift that leg lamp, right? That the husband loves, but she doesn't like it. That thing that's like, it's always been a family debate as to did, and I love that it was off camera. So you don't know if she knocked it down or not. So it lets the viewers even debate, did she really knock it, did she not, when she's laughing about it. So the bullying that's being shown on it. So I think it just hit every kind of stuff that families deal with. It didn't rely on Christmas. Christmas was the tool that was used, but it didn't rely on the Christmas stuff to tell a really good story. Because I feel like this movie could have been done even without it being Christmas. They could have done it just like something in the summer because the characters were so great. So yeah, I'm with you. I have to watch it every season, and not everybody's as gung ho about it as I am, but I'm like, I will watch A Christmas Story.
Oh no,
And
I have to watch. It's like a must, guarantee. Have to watch.
and then they do it on Christmas Day like a loop. It just keeps
Yeah,
going on and on, a marathon.
which is awesome for me. It's perfect for me because it's like I don't have to see it from. Yeah, I've seen the movie so many times that I don't have to necessarily see it from the beginning, even though it's definitely better to watch it as it progresses
Yes.
into it. But as I watch it, I could watch it right from any given point, and I'm stuck there until I see the full movie as a whole, right? So I could start from the very middle, and then I get right back to that area when it comes out, and it's very weird for me because I feel like I have to watch it when it's televised. Like I've never watched a movie when it's not televised. It's kind of a strange feeling for me. It's like I gotta watch this thing with ads. I don't know. But it's just it is what it is. But maybe this year I'll watch it on HBO Max. But you know, the story is a kid, Ralphie, and it's set in the early 40s, I want to say, or the 50s. I don't remember exactly. It's 40s or 50s. It's set in that time period. And I want to say 50s though.
I think
Um, yeah, it's 50s. In my brain it's 50s because you had Little Orphan Annie in the radio. You also had comics was a thing, but the war there was no discussion on the war. So if there was no discussion on the war, then I'm assuming it was the 50s. But I have to look it up again. I'm not sure, but it is based off a book, which is not necessarily meant to be a Christmas book. It wasn't really a Christmas, and it's by Gene Shepard, who also happened to be the narrator of the movie. So he
so.
narrated the
It
movie.
and in this movie, just because he listens to the radio for his
Mhm.
decoder
Yeah.
Ovaltine thing, so there was no TV at that point, right?
No, there was no television at the
Yeah.
time, so it was radio broadcast. That's why it's very interesting to find out. So you know what? Now I'm trying to remember, what year was it? What year? Google. Let's
Yeah,
find
because
out.
with the exception of the TV, there's nothing about it that's dated, right? That kind of gives you something specific. Um, Not that I can think of anyway. Although, I mean, because I didn't realize Ovaltine went that far back.
It's actually the 40s. It was 1940, so it was right before the war because it had to happen during a time period that there was no war, right? Because then that would have been a big deal. But it was right before the war. It was set in December of 1940. So at that time, because again, there's images of Superman, there's images of Little Orphan Annie, and it was early Superman, so he had the old costume, and Mickey Mouse and everything like that. So there's
Yeah.
things like that. Um, the story is loosely based on his life, of course, and there's something about that style of movie making that I love. So where you have a narrator, and then the narrator is busy telling the story. I love stories like that. Wonder Years is a good example of that, where I eat that stuff up. For me, that's the kind of stuff that I eat up, where it's like it's a period piece, it's set in the past, and it's kind of like, okay, you're reminiscing about being a kid and all that stuff. Um, and with this story, what I love about it is just the fact that all he wants to do is to get this Red Ryder BB gun. And the whole concept is that he's not getting it, or he can't get it, because everyone thinks he'll shoot his eye out. And that's the whole premise of the movie. You'll shoot your eye out. But it's really a story about him and the holidays, which personally I love the movie. Like I said, I eat it up.
Well, and also I think that obviously because this movie goes so far back, but in terms of with cancel culture and everything with in terms of like gun control and stuff, this movie I think avoids any cancel culture issues because he does shoot his eye. He just has he's saved by the glasses. So it after it's all said and done, you know,
Spoiler alert, right?
okay, so, and not that that's why they did it way back when. That wouldn't have been the concern. But this movie was told with such care, and even with the bullying and stuff like that. Like it became such a big deal later on, but much later when this movie came out. But it was just very amazing that how their story, this particular Christmas story, holds up.
Yeah, and there are scenes that it's not to say that the movie hasn't aged well. The movie actually aged really well because it's set in that time period, right? So whatever was going on in that time period is fine. So that one scene where Ralphie was caught saying fudge, but it wasn't the word fudge, right?
Yeah.
That scene for me was hilarious. But what made it so funny to me was afterwards when she puts the soap in his mouth and he says, "Where did you learn the word?" And the first thing he came up there was flick, right? So he comes up and he's like, "Okay," and she puts the soap back in his mouth. She calls the mom, and first of all, I'll tell you a little backstory about all that in a minute. But she calls the mom, and all you hear is my rah, 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 rah. It's kind of like it's like the Charlie Brown parents in a way, but you could kind of pinpoint what she's saying, and then he's like wah, wah, wah. And all you hear is her beating up her son, which in today's culture you can't do that,
right? But also when she calls and she says, "Do you know where you heard it from?" and that lady on the phone says his father, because the father does curse up a storm. I was like, it's one of those things how families will think like, "Oh, my kid would never have gotten it from this house," even though clearly that's where it came from. And he got into so much trouble. But yeah, the fact that the kid getting beat is off screen, it's off camera, I think helps save that scene somewhat.
It helps save it, but you're because you could hear her beating up her son, and it plays for laughs today. Of course, it plays for laughs then, even though today it's probably there's got to be someone's like that's not good, but for at that time, that was considered the norm. You either got like Puerto Rican household, man. We did it. They didn't put soap in our mouth. You know what I mean?
I mean, when I saw that movie as a kid, that was the norm for what was happening to me.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. If I would have done something bad, I would have either gotten a chancleta, I would get a pounding. So nothing too severe. You know what I mean? Nothing to send me to the hospital, but it was considered norm. So there's that. Another good fact is that the father in the movie was originally supposed to have been played by Jack Nicholson. Did you know that?
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the father was supposed to be Jack Nicholson, and he was asking for too much money. Of course they were gonna have, because he would have been the one and only star in the movie, and they eventually turned it down, and they ended up going with the person that ended up being the father. I forget their names. And it works out because in this whole movie, none of the characters are established names. The only one that's
and you, so then you honestly feel like you're just watching a genuine family as opposed to, oh, that movie that Jack Nicholson is in. Is that you just feel like these are all kids? Because I think, but that the boy ends up being like, was it Life cereal or something like that? Did he do something?
Which one? The
The main
because
kid, I feel like he was on a
so
cereal
so
box.
Ralphie, he ends today. He's actually a an executive producer. He and this is a comic book channel, so I'm gonna give you some information that you probably didn't know. He executive produced Iron Man, and he's in Iron Man. He's an Iron Man. There's so he's one of the scientists that is trying to redo the arc reactor. So when Jeff Bridges' character says, "I want you to build the arc reactor," it's like Tony Stark created this with nothing but scraps. And he said, the guy who says, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm not Tony Stark." That's Ralphie.
Oh. Uh,
So he's gone off to do other things. He's a major TV producer, movie producer. He's part of the MCU. He's canon in MCU. So he's the scientist in that movie, and he actually returns in Spider-Man Far From Home, where he works with Mysterio. He's one of Mysterio's helpers. So
okay.
when you see him, you'll know it's him. At first glance, you don't know because you're not thinking that. But if you're looking for him, you'll find him. It's you can't miss him. The only difference is he's bald now, so
Yeah.
that's the difference. But a few years ago, I think about 2 years ago, it's been 2 years ago, or was it last year? I don't even remember. I managed to go to the house. I went to the house. In the house is in Cleveland. We went to visit some family in Cleveland, and one of the first things I said was, "I got to go to the Christmas Story house." So I went to the Christmas Story house, and the house is exactly the way it's set up. So what you see in the movie is exactly how they kept it.
Wow.
And they got the lamp. They have a museum across the street, and they have if you could go to the rooms. If they actually have a phone that's by the staircase where she called the other mother, and if you take the phone, you'll hear the mother beating up short the kid. All you hear is wah, wah. Also, if you go to the furnace, the furnace stick, if you move it, you can hear the father cursing in it. So
Oh,
it's a really cool surreal experience. We took photos. It was a blast. There's a poll as well. But there's so much to talk about this movie, man. I could talk about this movie for ages. The fact that the lamp is just like in my house. I'm not allowed to get a lamp, even though I try and I try. And Debbie always tells me no. She hates that thing.
and that's the thing, is that it's a long movie. That's another thing about For a Christmas Story. I think it's probably longer than any of the other movies that
Yeah, it's a solid 2 hours. Yeah,
but there's nothing that I would cut out. That's to me, it's
the dogs, the dogs in the movie flick.
the dogs, the weird daydreams of him being blind, or him cowboys, shooting the bandits that robbed the train or whatever it was.
Yeah,
All of those little
Black Bart.
things.
It was Black Bart.
Yeah, all those things. I was like, it holds up. There's nothing in that movie that I would change, and so that's why for me, for sure, I was like, it's to me, it stays more. And every time I watch it when it's on, so yeah.
Yeah,
And,
and
and it's funny because I think both of us put that as our number one.
that because come on, it's the best movie out of all. And it didn't start, it wasn't an all-time hit when it first came out. It came out in 1980. It wasn't a big hit. It gradually became a hit because once it was on TBS, and they decided to play it on the 24 run, which they haven't stopped since, and there's no plan that they will. That's when it actually became the classic that it is today. But to me, it's a perfect movie. I love the kid with the arms. When he puts the coat on, he can't put his arms down. I love everything, man. There's nothing to me that is a perfect movie.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong. Even the look, right? Because when you watch the movie, it feels like it's vintage. It feels old. It doesn't have that, "Oh, this is a new quality movie." No, it actually feels like it's like you're going back in time in the 40s. So enough talk about A Christmas Story. Let's move to our next one here. All right. So what is our next pick? I'm just gonna go ahead and hit it. So we're gonna talk about Home Alone, but what we're gonna do here is we're gonna talk about both movies. So we're going to talk about Home Alone 1 and 2. And I keep getting these dumb bots that are coming into the chats. I hate when they do that. So I got to block them as they come in. But so Home Alone 1 and 2. So Achilles, you picked Home Alone 2, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that one and two you can kind of put them together as just one choice. The But I think that in terms of Christmas itself, Home Alone 2 celebrates it a little bit more because, of course, he's in New York and all that kind of stuff, and you get more of the trappings and all that.
Mhm.
Whereas um, in Home Alone 1, the criminal element is a little bit more.
Well, yeah, I think Home Alone 1 is it's set in Christmas time. But I agree with you because it's set because we're in New York now, Home Alone in New York, you know. Home Alone 2 has that more festive Christmas feeling because there is something about being in New York during Christmas time. It's just awesome. Everything you see in that movie is true in a way.
Yeah.
You could walk around Fifth Avenue and you'll get to see the Rockefeller Christmas tree, and then you get to see all the stuff FAO Schwartz. In the movie, it's a different store. It's a made up store. It's not the real store, even though that was the Disney store. If I recall, that was the Disney store that was on Fifth Avenue. But that movie in the movie, it's a fake store. That's not a real store. Um, but it was meant to be FAO Schwartz.
Yeah.
That's what it was meant to be. And FAO Schwartz is now in Rockefeller Center where it used to be over at 59th Street. And if you haven't gone there, you got to go. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
definitely
I
awesome.
was sad when FAO Schwartz left 59th Street.
Yes, but the new one's not bad. The new one's pretty good. It definitely still has that feeling. It has the keyboard from Big, so it's there. So all that's there. So definitely go check it out if you haven't. There's also the Lego store that's there. That's also
Yeah.
in Rockefeller. That's awesome Lego store. That's a Lego store. Not what you see in the mall. So what you see in the mall, it's not. What you see there is a real Lego store where they have Lego statues and things like that. Um, so what makes Home Alone such an awesome holiday film?
Um, I think it's where you get this idea that this kid is like, I don't have to deal with my family. I can do whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. Especially in Home Alone 1, where he's eating all the candy, all the food, doing all that stuff. It's what a kid would think is the perfect Christmas, right? All the siblings are gone and you just get to do whatever you want. But it does a great job. Both of the movies do a great job of, like, when he finally does see his family, you're happy to see them for him, and
Mhm.
he's happy to see them. So yeah, I think that it's because at the core of it, it is about family. Like, you have all the hijinks and stuff like that of him dealing with the criminals and stuff. But there is that, I think it's Home Alone 1, right? Where it's that the old guy next door and that
Yeah,
his family, um,
Marlon.
him reaching out and stuff like that. So it always tugs at the heartstrings and stuff like that, as far as, like, um, at the core of it, just like I was saying, like, for me with Christmas, it's about the Christmas spirit. But with Home Alone, it really is about the importance of family and how much you miss them and stuff like that. So uh yeah, the idea of him getting on the wrong plane. I remember watching Home Alone 2 and I was like, yeah, I don't quite see that happening in today's world. But
I
at the
don't see that happening then either, to be
but
honest.
but
Just
it
let
was
them in. Yeah, and what's interesting about both movies is that Home Alone 2 is, with the exception of being in New York, it's a carbon copy. It's literally taking the same beats from the first movie and just rehashing them, right? And that's what sequels, most sequels that do that are considered to be flops. They're bad. They somehow made it work. And like we said earlier, it's the New York element to it that made it work. It's the same tropes, the same jokes. Obviously, when he's going to his uncle's home to get the burglars who are now the sticky bandits in part two, the hijinks are even more crazy, right? So that's like amped it up to 11. But and we have like more villains with like the hotel concierge, which I love that Tim Curry in this movie. I
Yeah.
love Rob Schneider in that movie. Right when he's like, okay, and he goes like this, and he gives him the gum. So that I think is fantastic. Um, let's talk a little bit about the bandits, right? Because the bandits, first they're the wet bandits, right? So you got, I'm trying to remember Joe Pesci's character's name, but I know the other one's Merv.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I would remember.
right? So first of all, is Joe Pesci equally as dumb as Merv, but is Merv just straight up dumb?
Joe Pesci's the smarter of the two.
Yes, he's definitely the smarter of the two. He's
But
like the butthead to his Beavis.
But I think that the movie actually did a great job of more so in the first one where it was a really important tone to set where they weren't buffoons. They just underestimated what a kid could do.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they weren't obviously real, super smart burglars either, but in their minds, because he was just a kid, because if it had been a grown man in that house, they would have handled things very differently. But they're saying it's just a little kid, it's just a little kid. And so, Kevin being so clever and doing all this stuff, they always made it that way, that they're underestimating him. So then the kids watching this movie love it because it's like, yeah, the adults don't give him enough credit, and you can kind of get behind that. But Joe Pesci, I think, was not as smart as he thought he was.
What I loved about Joe Pesci's character, when Joe Pesci, first of all, Joe Pesci's the type of person that every second word is a curse to him, right? So what they ended up doing was, Joe, you can't curse in this movie. So he's like, so what am I supposed to do? Just do some gibberish. And that's exactly what he did. He was like, and it worked. It worked. The gibberish worked, right? Just seeing him just go, it was so cartoon, because that's what they did. They did a live action cartoon. It ended up becoming a live action cartoon. And what was interesting is that the last 30 minutes of the film, right? So the film's about 90 minutes, but the last 30 minutes of the film is where all this action comes into play, right? So before that happens, we're just getting a kid who is trying to kind of like just be there, try to deal with the fact that his his parents are gone. Hey, what's up, Josh? How you doing, my man? Right? And he's just trying to get his his family. He's trying to live what he thought he erased his family. He thought he dreamed them out in the first one, right? And in the second one, he knew what he did, but he didn't stop it. He just like, my family went somewhere else and I stood here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what's up, brother? It's been a while since I've seen you. How you doing? What's going on? Welcome. Yeah, go ahead and leave stuff in the chat. We're having a blast talking about Christmas movies, holiday movies. Home Alone is where we are right now. We're talking about both of them. So yeah, like I said, it's so interesting. And that scene right there, that was accidental. That was not intended. He did it, and they loved it, and they were like, that became the signature logo for the movie, right? So, and of course, you had to do it again for the second movie in some way. So you had that, you had the dynamic, you had chemistry between all those characters, and let's not forget Catherine Hahn's role in the movie. She is great, but she has to be one of the worst parents in the world. But I think the father's even worse.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's like, what happened to Kevin? It's like, he's not here. It's like, oh, okay. Like he's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, and the things that but for Kevin, anyone who's grown up with a lot of siblings, like I was one of 6, and the idea of just not having them all go away and having the house to yourself, that in itself is like a huge thing. It's magical. So I remember when I first watched it, I was like, yeah, I would totally be on board with that. I wouldn't miss my family, but but the movie does a good job with having it come around, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with the second part, like we talked about, there's some great scenes in the second part. I also love when he puts that old movie, right? He puts the old movie and he gets everybody. He got the pizza boy the first time. He got the crooks the other time. And then when he gets the hotel team, that's my favorite, right? You've been smooching with all of them, haven't you? He's like, and he mentions the other guy's name. He just happens to be the same name. And he's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, and the hotel was, like you said, they pretty much replicated the first movie, but instead of it just being him in the house by himself, there's now this hotel with the staff and whatever, and they just amped everything up. They made all of the shenanigans bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really smart. At first I was like, oh, this is not going to work at all, but then yeah, they definitely pulled it off.
Yeah, and we get a cameo by a certain president now in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah,
there's a lot of, I mean, the cast is phenomenal in that movie.
it's a break from him. Yeah, I know, right? They should do a Home Alone with the parents, but then again, I don't think they should do any more Home Alone movies. To tell you the truth, I think the Home Alone train is over. Um, yeah, but all the characters are great. I think every one of them does their part. Buzz is a fantastic character. He's a straight up jerk, but he is a big brother type. That's what a lot of big brothers were like. The tarantula was real. And a lot of the a lot of the scenes with the house, with both houses, the house and then the other house, that would have killed somebody.
Oh, don't even
So
get me. Yeah.
so there's a video out. There's another YouTube video. I don't know if you ever watch Honest Trailers. If you ever get a chance, watch Honest Trailers. They do Home Alone 2 Honest Trailer, and they actually count how many times Kevin murdered them. And it's a high death toll. It is high. Like we're talking double digits here.
Well, I mean, but it's in the spirit of the Three Stooges, as far as I'm concerned.
Three Stooges, and again, it's a live action cartoon. That's what it ends up becoming, right? Where
Exactly.
Kevin McAllister is more like Bugs Bunny, and these two guys are more like Daffy Duck and Elmer Fudd. It's exactly what it is. It's the same exact concept, and that's what makes the movie shine. But what really makes the movie shine is the dynamic between Macaulay Culkin's character Kevin and the crooks. That's what makes the movie timeless. Where all the other remakes that came, they can't do it because it just doesn't work. It doesn't have that same dynamic. You don't feel for the kid. The third Home Alone movie, the one that Kevin's not in it, and they go with this other kid. Another little nugget there is that we get a extremely young Scarlett Johansson in that movie.
Oh,
She,
wow.
she is the sister to the Kevin like character in the movie. And you ever watch it? It's like you get to see her like around like 6 or 7 or something like that. So that's something that you might want to look up, and you be like, makes you see Scarlett Johansson completely different. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
I didn't realize that. Okay.
yeah. All right. So let's go to our next flick here. And this is actually, we're going to be talking about two of them, but it's the same movie, only two different versions of the movie. So you have the original Miracle on 34th Street, which was the one that you mentioned, right? And then when I thought about it, it's like I never seen the original.
And
I've always been meaning to.
I've only seen the second one in bits and pieces, like on TV and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I've seen the second one plenty of times, though. Hmm. So what's so great about Miracle on 34th Street?
um, I liked it. It was a very simple story in terms of like, well, because usually when there's Santa Claus, and you've seen that happen with so many TV shows and movies where, oh, Santa is walking around and no one believes that it's him, but it's really him, blah blah blah, so forth. But here he just kind of pops up and it's very matter of fact, and his whole
He
thing
is
is about
actually.
believing. And I in the original, I thought it was very clever how they ended up establishing that he's Santa Claus in the court of law with the mail and all this other stuff. Um, and that it's the woman who doesn't believe in Santa Claus and all. She's like, just stick with common sense, which especially for that time period, you usually would think that it'd be the woman who believes, and the man is the one who's more about the common sense and stuff. So I was actually surprised also that little girl says, yeah, my parents got divorced when I was very little. I was like, who's getting divorced back in those days? I was like completely shocked. I mean, I was the version I watched is black and white, so it just everything about the movie just seems so old. I'm like, I can't believe. Yeah, it's like Natalie Wood is the woman in she plays the main part, and so that kind of surprised me. I thought it was a little progressive. Now,
even for that era, right?
for that era, I mean, you couldn't spot a person of color anywhere, even in the masses of the parade scene or anything. But this was, certainly a reflection of the times. But I liked the way they represented Santa and the whole idea of like commercialism versus the spirit of Christmas and stuff. So I thought it was a bit of a simplistic story, but it really I think is the best representation of Santa Claus in any of the movies I've seen.
Yeah, and like I said, I've seen the newer version, the one from '94, and every time I watch it, it's very heartfelt. It's a heartfelt movie. It's it knows what it is, but it's a kind of a serious take. So it's not a comedy in any way. It's not comedic. It's just heartfelt. It is the little girl in that movie is just like her mom until she's not. You know what I mean? So it's like her mom is grooming her to be just like her. But then, the male, the male lead, which is Dylan McDermott, character in ours, he manages to kind of like get her out of that shell. Like, yeah, you don't want to be uptight like your mom.
Well,
pretty much.
And you know what's interesting for this movie is that they don't show any magic. There's no reindeer. There's no sled. Everything that
well, there
Santa
is a reindeer. There is a reindeer, but it's not like a reindeer. So there is a scene where where Santa goes to the zoo and he's petting the reindeer. There is a scene, and he's telling him, "It's like, yeah, don't worry, it's gonna be okay."
In the original, there's no reindeer. The closest you get to something being magical is at the end of the movie where you see his cane is in this house that he had promised the little girl he'd get for her for Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's like, did Santa do it? Did he not? But the fact that there's no mention of any kind of magic stuff or whatever, he doesn't even explain how he gets all the stuff for the people. So maybe he really was crazy from the old folks home. I have no idea. But yeah, I that's one of the reasons why I liked what I say is like such a simplistic movie, because they didn't rely on any of any gimmicks or anything like that. It was just establishing what Santa's really about. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, and they did the same thing with the newer version where it was like, okay, is he really Santa? Like, he looks like Santa, he talks like Santa, he thinks like Santa, but is he really Santa? And the idea, the concept behind the movie, and I'm sure that was the same thing with the older version, is that it's not about seeing is believing. It's more about believing, is what it is, right? So I don't need to see that you're Santa Claus to know you're Santa Claus. And that's the concept behind both movies, where you're not seeing him do any of the magical stuff, even though a lot of the stuff could just come across as just being coincidental. But if you believe, it's not, right? So this is really a type of movie that's based on faith. It's a faith-based style movie, right? We're not talking when it's Christmas, so obviously when we talk about Christmas, we think about the birth of Christ. This is believing in Santa Claus, but it's based on the fact that you believe that this man really is Santa. And really all the way towards the end of the movie is the same concept towards the very end, when they're in court and the judge has to make the decision. Spoiler alert, guys. The judge makes the decision solely based on the fact that it's based on faith. and the faith that he is Santa rather than is he truly Santa, which I think made it very genius back then, and even
Well,
more
well,
so again.
in the original, he's able. The judge doesn't want to say that it's not Santa because then all of the toy companies and all of the malls and stuff like that are going to lose so much business. So he's being pressured, but he's like, I need a legal reason to do this. So in the
Yeah,
original, it's only because they can establish that all that mail was going to him, and since the post office is a federal
yeah.
it is a federal thing that they were able to establish through all of the mail that he was getting that he that he's Santa. So that's
And
how they did it in the original one.
so in the
So
in the newer one, what they did was that he ended up noticing a dollar bill, and the dollar bill they underline or they highlight it "In God We Trust," in which the Federal Reserve could say that they trust in a God that they don't know is real or not. So that
uh,
was the concept. So if we could believe that there is a God, even though we haven't seen or heard of him, then why can't we do the same for a Santa? And that's where it ended up being like it's a faith. It was based off of faith rather than true knowledge or true proof or anything like that. But it's a really good movie. This, like I said, I've been meaning to watch the original. I've never seen the original. Um, I've been meaning to watch it. There's some movies I do want to see. Like I want to see White Christmas. I've never seen White Christmas. I've
yeah.
seen It's a Wonderful Life. I like that movie, but
I've never seen that.
that's a long movie.
Uh,
You want to talk about long? That's a long movie. But you know the concept. You've seen the concept 100 times in other things. So, but this is one of those classics that I do want to see. the The new movie pretty much holds up, and it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. So if you ever get a chance, watch it. Trust me, I'm sure you'll like it. I'm sure you'll like it. All right, let's go to the next movie that's on our list here, and I do believe this was my pick. Now, no, it's not. It's your pick. I forgot. But then again, I do enjoy this movie too, and it's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Um, Before we say anything, the question is it a Christmas movie? Is it a Halloween movie?
yeah, and I first of all, I never wanted to see the movie for many many years. I was like, it all looks kind of creepy. I considered it to be Halloween-ish, and I just wasn't on board. Um, And when I finally had to see the movie, I can't remember, something happened. There was an event that I was going to, and I was like, now I have to watch this movie. And I loved it. And I see why people will have the debate because it is the Halloween characters, but the Halloween characters are trying to celebrate Christmas. So it occurs on for the Christmas holiday. So I would have to get to say that it's a Christmas movie. But I was shocked at how much I loved the movie. Like that's the thing. Like I thought it was so funny, very very original. But of course, Tim Burton, like the way his mind works, it's so interesting.
Now,
Um,
interesting that you say that. It is a Tim Burton produced movie. He did not direct it, but they
oh, he
used.
produced it, but he didn't direct it.
Yeah, a lot of people believed he directed it, but he wasn't a director. He was a producer of the movie.
And I
But
will say that this green thing that you have on the right side,
Oogie Boogie,
oh my god, I was like, he bothered me so much. He
he's
was so
scary though.
creepy. Um,
He's scary, man. Like he's scary in the way that he freaks you out rather than actually his look actually scares you. It's like he doesn't physically scare you. He's so intimidating that he becomes scary.
yeah, if I had seen this when I was 5 years old, it would have been tough
It
for
was
me.
very scarring. Yeah, yeah. There was scenes in this movie that I'm like, even I was like, whoo, as a child, But it does come from the mind of Tim Burton. It is based off of a poem that he wrote, and obviously the characters are based on his designs. So these are definitely his designs. You'll see Jack Skeleton, who's the Pumpkin King. You actually see him in other movies. He has a small, very small. If you blink, you'll miss it moment in Beetlejuice. He's in that movie, and he's always thrown in a different movie. Like you'll find his look. His head is supposed to be a skeleton head. It doesn't really look like it, but it's supposed to be a skeleton head. But that's how Tim Burton draws skeleton heads.
Well,
Um,
and out of all the Christmas movies, for me, I felt that this story was the most original.
mhm. Yeah,
It sets itself apart in terms of what is, because a lot of the movies, which I love, but a lot of them is like they rely on Santa and there's this and that and so forth. There's certain staples that you would find true for all these movies, but this one was so like so out there.
yeah.
But yeah, I gotta say, I really did love it.
What I do like about the character of Jack is how pure he is, which is interesting because the rest of them are not, right? The rest of them are just jerks. Except for Sally. Sally's a different type of character. The mayor is a nervous wreck, right? Um, Oogie Boogie obviously is bad, but the guy who creates Sally, all he wants to do is like torture her in some weird way, and she's just like, I gotta get out, right? But Jack is like, he's just tired of he's gotten tired of doing the same routine over and over and over. So when he finally sees Christmas and he goes to the Christmas world, he's like, the song, what's this? What's this? What's this? Which is like now etched in my brain whenever I hear it. And it's just the wonderment that he has is almost is very childlike, and
Yes,
he
yeah,
wants to replicate it, but of course all he knows is how to do things Halloween style. And the best part is seeing how Santa is in the movie. Santa's not exactly a nice guy in this movie. He really isn't. So he's like, give me back my holiday, take yours, I'm out. You know what I mean? So it's like, but
yeah,
it's a fun movie. I enjoy it.
yeah. I think that there's something really interesting about how for Jack Skellington, like it's like people who are like, oh, I'm gonna do a good thing, but if all you've ever known was this other stuff, your understanding, your interpretation, I was like, that certainly is something that I think is very relatable for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Like best of intentions, but oh my god, when they all started, when I first I watched it and they all started opening their gifts and screaming and
Oh
carrying
my
on,
god.
I just couldn't stop. I could not stop laughing. I said that is just. But what makes it funny is that he wasn't trying to scare them. I thought before I watched the movie that that's what it was about. That it was like these Halloween characters are like going to just ruin Christmas and terrorize. Once I realized that he was like legit trying to do something to make everybody happy, I was like, oh my god, that to me is what makes it so amazing.
Mhm. And the Zero character, his pet Zero, his
Oh
little
god,
dog. Oh, that character. I love Zero. Zero's awesome. All right, now it's a pick of mine. No, again, this is a pick of mine though.
yeah,
I keep thinking that I keep forgetting it. This one, Elf, is now considered to be one of the newer classics. I guess you could call it a classic now. It's been around for almost 20 years. I don't remember exactly
yeah,
when Elf
yeah.
has been around, but it's been around for a very long time now when you think about it. Um, Elf is one of those movies that it's modern. It's definitely modern because a lot of the jokes you're seeing are more of this time's jokes, right? Rather than the traditional jokes to make people laugh. But what ended up making this movie so great was, Will Ferrell's performance in this movie. How, this is the same guy who just did Old School. You know what I mean? This is Frank the Tank, playing a wholesome character, a childlike character, and then you have someone like James Caan, who comes from the Godfather movies, playing his dad, who's pretty much the same character in a weird way. You have Bob Newhart being Bob Newhart, Ed Asner being Santa, which is perfect to me. This is one of those movies for me that when I watch it, it just puts a smile on my face. Oh, there we go. Spaghetti and syrup. How can you go wrong with spaghetti and syrup, man? um, have you ever watched Elf before, Achilles?
I I hadn't, but when I saw it on your list, I said, well, let me just watch and see. I am not a Will Ferrell fan. I've seen movies with him in it, and um, and some of them I thought were funny, some of that, but I just wasn't one for it. But I finally watched it. Um, and it's certainly not my top five, but uh, there was. I liked this. I watched the first half, and I was like, okay, I don't even know if I'll finish this. And then the second half, I ended up liking that a lot more than the first. I had no idea that Peter Dinklage was in it. I was shocked to just see him looking so young. Um, and I guess this is Zoe. I don't even know how to say her last name.
Zora de Chanel.
Yeah. So there were moments in the movie that I liked. That whole thing, like everybody has to sing to bring the Christmas spirit and stuff like that. Yeah, to me, it was just the story was a little wonky. I did love. I wish I had done more of when he was talking to the claymation snowman. I
Oh
thought
man.
I don't know, but him talking to him, I was like, well, that's kind of cool that the North Pole has all of these kind of like Frosty the Snowman types or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was better than I thought, but I mean, I do understand that it has its own cult following at this
Oh
point.
no, man! When you watch it over and over, you'll see. You'll start seeing it. It's the type of movie that I could watch over and over. But it is great part when he's talking to the claymation characters and he's leaving, and he's like the narwhal comes up, bye, buddy, and that's the voice of the director, who's John Favreau, who's also in the movie as the Doctor. Um, but what's so funny about that scene to me isn't so much the narwhal coming up, it's seeing the other characters, and you had that one character just crying like, like he's crying because he's leaving. He's like, that cracks me up. I like when Santa tells Buddy, like, if you see gum, don't pick it up. Don't, and he still
When
does
he
it.
started eating the gum off of that Subway thing, I was like, oh my
And
God.
then he tells him don't go to the peep shows because they're not actually peeps on Christmas presents. So that was awesome to say it, right? So that was cool. The elf that's in the movie talking about people making other appearances, that you see the image there, she's next to Peter Dinklage. That elf is Ben Kingsley. Ben now I can't remember how to say it. That's Ralphie. That elf is Ralphie.
That the elf is next to Peter Dinklage is Ralphie?
Yeah, that's Ralphie. He's in the movie. Uh,
Holy smokes. Okay.
yeah. So he's in it. You're not a cotton knitting monger. The way he takes a shower in the big shower. So all that stuff, like I said, it's there's a lot of references in this movie. The costume that he's wearing is taken directly from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like bit for bit. That's why they have the costumes. They actually had different types of costumes. There's a Netflix documentary on this movie, which makes you appreciate the movie even more so. Peter Dinklage is amazing in this movie. You also have some other guys. You got this guy from Tenacious D with the guy that's with Jack Black. He's one of the writers. And then you have Conan O'Brien's other guy. I can't remember the names. All the names are escaping me. Mary Steenburgen is the mother. Yeah, this movie to me, man, it's so much fun. It's such a fun movie.
Well, I'm telling you, when I was a manager at Kohl's, I remember the Christmas came around and it was just elf this, elf that, and so forth. The clothes, the games, the tchotchkes. I mean, it was just like there were just so many different things that had to. I was like, yo, people really love this movie, and everyone can say, how could you not have seen it? I was like, it's just not for me. But it was better than I thought. Which is the same thing with the Nightmare Before Christmas. I was like, all these movies that I'm resistant to, I was like, maybe I should just watch a movie whether I want to see it or not, and just
go for it, right?
And just go for it and see.
Yeah, because it's funny because when it comes to other movies, like movies throughout the years, you say, okay, I'll catch that sometime, and you probably never will, right? But when it comes to holiday classics, they're always on, so it's like, yeah, might as well just sit down and watch it. You know what I mean? It's that kind of vibe. Bob Newhart he's awesome. His dry humor is always perfect. So
yeah, I always love him.
Right, so it's always great to see him doing stuff like "Come sit in my lap," and he's sitting on his lap. He's like, So that's good. Great movie. Let's see what here. Sometimes you just have to watch the movie so people will stop bothering you about. Yep, exactly my point, Josh.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
Speaking of another movie, is it time? Nope, not yet. I keep forgetting it, man. I did this PowerPoint and I can't even remember. The next movie in our list is actually we're going to be talking about the trilogy, and I'll talk a little bit about the TV series because I've been watching the TV series, the Santa Claus. So, have you seen all three movies?
I saw the first two a long time ago, and I remember thinking that Tim Allen is a fantastic Santa.
Yeah, Tim Allen is a great. Surprisingly, he really is a good Santa.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Um, here's another known fact. He wasn't the first choice.
Who was the first choice?
You gotta crack up. You gotta crack up because again, when you see their connection, it's like, oh wow, the first choice was Tom Hanks.
Um,
So
and but
Tom Hanks,
but Tom Hanks, I mean, he's a little thinner in the face. Not that they can't fix that with makeup and stuff. I mean, the way he looked in the Elvis movie, he certainly could have been playing Santa.
he could have done it. It's Tom Hanks, man. Tom Hanks could do anything, in my mind. You know what I mean? Um, so Tim Allen, and again, Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, they got a connection through the whole Toy Story movie. Um, the first movie is really good. I like the second movie even more. The third movie is like two movies put together. So the third movie is I think what sells the third movie is has to be Martin Short's character because he's playing Jack Frost. And Jack Frost is pretty much he wants to take the mantle of Santa. So what that movie's about, it's about the escape clause. The escape clause is that he goes back in time and he takes over the mantle so that Tim Allen will never become Santa Claus. And that's the premise, but it almost feels like it's two movies and it doesn't really work that well. Where the first movie obviously is him, he's gonna get he got the role. He doesn't necessarily know if he wants the role, and he doesn't truly believe in the role. But as time progresses, he starts to notice throughout the year that it's like, I think I may be Santa. And for me, the best part is just seeing him just, it's like, oh, I got a package. Oh, great. And they bring in trucks. And what's this? Like, it's the list. So it's like, he has to look at that list and he has to check it twice. So, and Bernard's a great cat. I love the fact that they get a Jewish guy to play an elf, a Christmas elf. Because Bernard's as Jewish as it gets, man.
But and when the Santa Claus, when the first movie came out, there was just like a whole ton of Santa type movies that were coming out during that time period.
Yeah.
And it managed to kind of like cut away from the rest of the flock and really stand out on its own. But I remember there were so many that I used to not be sure which movie was which. And then this ended up being, I think, the one that kind of lasted.
I think it's because like you said earlier about the other movies, like that Nightmare Before, the premise is different. It was original. You never really saw a movie where it's like the mantle of Santa is passed on based off clauses, right? So he becomes Santa because the other Santa died at his house, but that's not why he becomes Santa. He becomes Santa because he puts on the jacket, and that grants him the right to become Santa. And what's interesting enough is that he was not a prime candidate to be Santa. He is the complete opposite of what Santa should have been. And it was more on the lines like, okay, this is who you are now, and this is what you're gonna be like. And I think Judge Reinhold's character, who's his ex-wife's new husband, he's a trip because he's like, the psychiatrist, and he just won't believe that he's a psychiatrist in the whole movie. And the one person that believes is his son, because his son's like, oh no, yeah, Santa, you are Santa now, and you're gonna do this and all that. And then it turns out at the end that he realizes, yes, I am gonna be Santa, and everybody believes that he's Santa. The second movie I seem to like a little bit more because with this one, he's Santa, he's happy being Santa, but now he's going to lose the role because he has to find his Mrs. Claus, and he has to find her within the end of the year. Which, wow, thanks for giving me all that time to figure it out. It's like, yeah, fall in love in just less than 6 weeks.
And is that actress? I always know her from Lost, but is she in the series on Netflix? Is it?
No, it's a Disney Plus series.
Disney Plus.
The Santa Claus TV series is a continuation, and the concept here is that he's retiring. So the goal is that who is going to take the mantle. So he's actually interviewing people to take over the mantle of Santa. I don't know where it's going to end up. There are obvious choices, and there's almost, very predictable where it looks like it's going to end up, but it might end up differently. Who knows? And his son does show up in the new movie as a grown adult, and it's not what you think ends up being the situation with him.
And
you would think,
is it the same actor from the movies?
yes, it's the same kid, but
wow.
he just shows up in one episode. He's not there throughout the duration. It's him and his wife, so she's the same actress in the new one. Yes, another thing I have to mention about it is that it has an intro that is freaky. Like, it gives me nightmares. That little intro that it has for the escape clause. Like, if you go to Disney Plus and you see the intro, you know what I mean about being freaky. It's like, yeah, that looks like an acid trip. I don't know what they were thinking about that, but yeah, acid trip Santa. Go figure. But yeah, I do love this. I love this series. I think part 1 and part 2 are the best ones of it. Part 3, you could watch it, but it's okay. It's not the best movie. That's when you know that there was like, okay, we got nothing now. So, and the TV series is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I think it's time.
Plus. I mean, that's the thing. If it's streaming, it's not like you went to the theater to pay for it. So
yeah, exactly. Let's go to the next movie. Now I finally get it. So you have not seen this movie because you don't like Chevy Chase. That I know.
Yeah, Chevy Chase, and I was like, and I've had this debate with so many people, and I said, listen, everyone has at least one celebrity that just for whatever reason, it's not that they're not talented, it's not that you think that they as a person aren't nice or whatever, but they just somehow don't work for you. And for me, that's just always been Chevy Chase. I wish I had a more concrete reason to give, but anything that I would see him in, even when he was on Saturday Night Live, I was just like, it just wasn't doing it for me. So when they started doing all these National Lampoon stuff, I was like, how is this guy, like, what is it that everybody's seeing that I don't see? I don't understand. So I've never watched it, but it is very quoted. People love it. It's got this whole following to it. They're like, I know that for what I say about Christmas Story, people say about Christmas Vacation. They're like, I have to watch that movie every holiday season.
Yes. Christmas Vacation is the third movie. But so believe it or not, Christmas Vacation is actually a sequel. It doesn't hold up like a sequel, of course, because it's just it's a family movie. It's a family comedy. It is very much a PG-13 movie. It's not a traditional children's movie because there are scenes that are adult themed.
Oh, okay.
But again, it's PG-13, so it's not going all the way. What makes National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation so funny is very similar to Home Alone. It's also a live action cartoon, and the Griswolds, who that's who they're playing, the family, it's slapstick comedy. That's what it is, and everything he does, he's a good-hearted individual. He's a good-hearted man. He's a good family man. He's just dumb when it comes to things, and his heart's in the right place. But he doesn't know how to do things properly. So everything that he does ends up becoming something dumb. So, so right in the beginning of the movie where you have them, they're going to get a Christmas tree. And of course, the family's like, why can't we just get a Christmas tree in the store? Or why can't we just get it from the lot? Say, no, we're going to get Christmas trees the way it was intended to be. We're going to go out to the woods and we're going to chop down a tree. That's the mindset that he has, right? So right in the beginning, they're in the car and there's these truckers that are following them, right? They're tailgating them and they're just messing with him, right? So immediately he's like, "Oh no, we're gonna battle in some way," and he eventually loses out this war. But what ends up happening is that they cut him off, and as he was about to go chase him, he's not realizing that there's this huge semi truck next to him, and the semi truck just so happens to be high enough that his car could go directly underneath it. So as he's driving, yeah, it can't happen today, but at that time it was just as he's driving, he's taking the station wagon that he has, and he's driving the station wagon. He's taking the station wagon, he's getting in, and he's somehow getting in. He's going into the next lane, and he's underneath this truck, and now he's stuck because he has to go the same speed as the truck because he's underneath the truck, and they're like, "We're gonna die." He's like, I got this." And of course, he somehow gets out, but again, he lands into the lot where he can get the tree. So that's the first bit of comedy. Um, it is funny. It's hilarious. It's a great scene. And when they go get the tree, they're going, and it's the coldest. It's one of the coldest days of winter. His daughter is there, and she's like, "See what's going on?" And she's like, "I can't feel my legs." He's like, "It's okay. I can't feel my feet. I can't feel." And then he talks to her, and he's like, "What's wrong? Your daughter's frozen. She's completely frozen, right? So she has frostbite." And then when they finally see the tree is huge. He forgets to bring an axe. So off camera, he manages to get the tree off its roots and he puts it on top of the station wagon with its roots. And that tree is huge. And that's the first 15 minutes of the movie.
And in this family, it is him, the wife, and then these two kids that I see in the picture.
Yes, that's his family. And the boy is Leonard from the Big Bang Theory. And the girl, she's a famous actress. I'm trying to remember her name. What's her name? It's escaping me now. You guys in the chat, you can remind me what's her name. Let me know. I can't. Why is her name escaping me, guys? Yeah. Let me know in the chat if you can remember the name of the actress. Shoot, why can't I remember her name? Juliette Lewis. Juliette Lewis. That's who it is.
Oh, so, okay. And so these National Lampoon, all the National Lampoons have this family in it, or is it just that Chevy Chase stars in them?
So Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, who are Clark Griswold and Ellen Griswold, right? They're married. In all the movies, it's the same kids, but they're played by different actors.
Oh.
So they get recast in every movie. So
because they keep growing and they want them to stay forever young, I guess.
Yes, to a certain extent, but I think it's a joke. It plays off as a joke.
But it is always a younger boy and the older sister.
Somewhat, but because they did Vegas Vacation a few years afterwards, and they were already more adult. They weren't adults yet; they were like teenagers. But in this one, he's supposed to be like 11 or 12. She's supposed to be like 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that movie. And again, if you could get past your Chevy Chase, I suggest you watch it because it is one of the funniest movies out there. And when I tell you this, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. It is hilarious how funny this movie is. Randy Quaid is cousin Eddie, and he is your typical redneck character.
That's who a friend of mine showed up to for our Halloween party as that guy.
Cousin Eddie. Yeah, he
And
is.
everybody knew who he was. They thought it was so hilarious. They said it's spot on. I was like, I said, I just thought you were some guy in a robe. I didn't think anything.
Cousin Eddie is your worst nightmare come to life as a person. Like, he's a good person. He's not a bad person. It's just that he is everything that's wrong with Middle America.
Okay.
You know what I'm
But well
saying?
intentioned, I guess.
Yes, well intentional. He's a good-hearted spirit. So, there is a part of the movie where Clark is so mad at what happened that he wants his boss, right? I want him here with a bow tie, and Eddie went ahead and kidnapped the boss. That's how he is. He went to kidnap them because he figured that's how he's going to give him a good Christmas, by kidnapping the boss. And of course, it gets it gets a little crazy at the end. But definitely, if you want to get past your Chevy Chase, hey, I get it. Get past it. I promise you will laugh because it is a funny movie.
I'll see if I can give it a whirl. I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas surprised me. I guess Elf surprised me, but that wasn't really saying much because I really was not expecting anything. So I'll try to give it a whirl this holiday season. Why not? I should make that a holiday tradition for myself. It's like to watch a movie that I have resisted up until now.
Well, and that's the thing. It's another one of those movies. It's not like the other. It's not like Christmas Story that they play it on Christmas Day. You're gonna see it, and they're constantly replaying it. So you'll see it being replayed over and over and over. Um, you just have to catch it when it's being replayed. But I do believe it's also on HBO Max. So if you have HBO Max, you could go to HBO Max and watch the movie. And like I said, it's a fun movie. It's not a children's movie. It's definitely not a children's movie. It is a PG-13 movie. It is a John Hughes movie. So if you like John Hughes movies,
I do.
it's a John Hughes movie. So that's worth it, but for that, and it feels like a John Hughes movie. A lot of things can be said about John Hughes. He took care of. He did Christmas Story. He did Home Alone as well. So
Yes.
so and it is set in Chicago. So it is based in Chicago. The parents are funny too. So the parents, and you have Julie Louis Dreyfus, Elaine Bennis. She's one of the neighbors. She's a very uptight character, and there's something happens to them in the movie, so that's pretty funny. So it does have a lot of laughs in it. It's definitely worth watching. All right, now this is the movie that I haven't seen that you have. You gotta tell me about what makes Medea's Christmas so special, because I don't get it. I'm not a Medea guy. I'm sorry.
Okay, listen, I'm not a Medea guy either, to be quite honest. The Tyler Perry movies, I've seen a couple of them, and it just doesn't do it for me. I'll say that. My old roommate, she really, really loves this movie, and she just kept saying, "You have to watch it. You have to watch it with me," and so forth or whatever. And I was like, okay. Now, the thing that I will say about the character of Medea is that I remember I was watching part of one of the other movies. I don't even know which one it was called, but that I said, "Oh, this is why people why people love these movies so much, is because she's sitting in the front seat, somebody is driving, and she's sitting in the passenger seat, and she's got her grandkids in the back, and she's like, if y'all keep acting up, whatever, I'm gonna reach back there and whatever." The kids keep on talking. So what does Medea do? She actually reaches back there and she starts knocking them around and stuff like that. And I was like, and I said, if I saw this in theater, I know that that people would be clapping and cheering, because Medea does what people wish they could do, but there would be just too much of repercussions or backlash. So when Medea is working the I guess the perfume counter at what would be considered Macy's in this Christmas movie, the way she talks to the different people, it's like if you worked in retail, she says everything you wish you could say, but you never would, because you would get fired. So she kind of has that thing. So in that sense, it is funny. So if I saw this movie on TV, like I wouldn't sit down and say, "Oh, I'm going to watch the Medea Christmas." But if it was on, I'd watch it, because there's certain parts when she tells the story of the birth of Christ. She finds herself in a position where she's supposed to tell the story of the birth of Christ, but for some reason, Medea does not know it. She doesn't know that story.
Really?
So I always assumed that she was like super religious or whatever, but she does not know the story at all. So when she's explaining something along the lines that Mary J. Blige and Joseph do whatever and so on. So she butchers the story. In that part is actually done really, really well. It's one of the best parts of her just fabricating, the story. So it's almost like Hallmark, but where people are saying everything is politically incorrect, at least on her part for her character. So it is really funny. At first I thought, well, I don't know that many holiday movies that have people of color. I was like, I would have loved for there to be like a Three Kings holiday movie with Puerto Rico, and maybe there is one. I'm just not aware. Yeah. But that was the original thought. But then I was like, you know what? I do. The movie is funny. I'm not a Medea franchise fan for a number of reasons. It's just not for me. But this one, I will say it captures the Christmas spirit in the sense of like people who are when you're that retail store alone, and the way she talks to her her customers, it's worth it.
Yeah, I've never seen a Medea anything, and I've never seen a Tyler Perry movie. That those movies don't interest me in any way. It's just not my type of movies. It does feel like they're Hallmark movies in a way, right? They do feel that way a lot of times. So it doesn't interest me like that. But people talk about Medea like she's an icon. Tyler Perry created an icon in Medea. I don't get it. I don't understand it personally, but if that's what it is.
Because if you watch a Hallmark movie, and I've certainly seen plenty of those, if you watch a Hallmark movie and someone is doing something stupid, or there's two people who are just giving googly eyes at each other, but they're too afraid to say anything, whatever, Medea would be like, why don't y'all just get to the bedroom and just make all the stuff happen? Like she just says, she says what's on your mind the viewer would want to say. So she kind of does that. She just says absolutely anything that comes to her mind. There's no filter on her whatsoever. And the people that you see next to the Christmas tree in that image, they are pretty much the way you described the Randy Quaid character in the Christmas Vacation movie. Like they're Midwest, so forth, very well intentioned, super, super sweet, absolutely hilarious. But they're also a little bit off color kind of thing. So so that's why it's on there. So all I can say is that I'm not a Medea fan, but I did end up liking this movie, which is why I'm going to give Christmas Vacation a shot, because I was not a fan of that entire franchise, but I ended up, I might end up liking that one as well.
Yeah, the Vacation movies, pretty much all of them have their moments where they're funny. Not Christmas Vacation 2. So there is a Christmas Vacation 2.
There's a sequel to that? Okay. I didn't know.
But it doesn't have Chevy Chase's character. It's based off of Cousin Eddie, and it's not good. It is not a good movie. Cousin Eddie is a supporting character. He is not a lead. So what they did is that they made him a lead in the movie, and it was a direct to home video type of movie, and it's just bad. It is just bad. It's not funny. It's not anything. It's because again, what makes the Vacation movies so good is seeing Chevy. Believe it or not, is seeing Chevy Chase going through these crazy moments, because he is literally, he's pretty much immortal. He is just like the wet bandits in Home Alone. You can't hurt him, but you could try really hard. So, all right, now that we talked about the movies that we enjoyed, we've talked about all of them. So we talked about them. There are some movies here that we're going to consider to be what we call our honorable mentions. And these are movies that I went ahead and I said, I got to pick them out, because again, there could be someone that's watching right now that says, why didn't you say this movie's in this list? And I'm going to tell you, these are the honorable mentions that I know, some of which I've seen all but one. Um, can you take a wild guess which is the one that I haven't seen?
Uh, I'm gonna say you haven't seen. Well, would it be Love Actually?
It was Love Actually. So,
So
so
how did you
Love
end up picking
Actually,
that one?
because that's the wife pick.
Because I
Debbie
I
picked it.
I honestly didn't think of the movie until after I sent you that list, and that definitely would have knocked probably Medea off of my list.
Really?
Um, because it's just such a great movie, and but it's more about love than I would say about the holidays and stuff like that. The holidays
What's
really is
happening in the
a
holidays?
backdrop to it's a great story. But the Muppet one, I am going to watch that this week because
Yeah.
it's been a while. I've seen it, but it's been a while.
Yeah, so starting with the Muppets Christmas Carol, I saw it for the first time I think last year. I saw it. It's just one of those movies that I never really caught on to. But I heard that it's considered to be the best Christmas Carol. Mickey's Christmas Carol to me is the best Christmas Carol movie. Scrooge McDuck, man, that is the best one to me. Um, but I heard a lot of good things about this one. Obviously, Kermit is playing the role of the his worker, and you got Michael Caine, and anything with Michael Caine is awesome because Michael Caine is
Exactly.
awesome. And it's a good movie. It really is. It's a good Christmas Carol. It's very Christmas Carol. It's the whole story. Bah humbug and all that. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. The other one that I'll talk about that I have seen and I've seen plenty of times is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Ron Howard film with Jim Carrey, um, which I think as time progresses, it becomes a better movie. When it first came out, people were not thrilled about it because it wasn't going beat for beat with the story. And I think it hurt it a little bit, but as it gained its own following and people were like, okay, this is a different story with the same concept and just added meat to it. And it's being a good movie. It's a fun movie. I enjoy it. Have you gotten a chance to see How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey?
Actually, I did. I saw it in the theater. Um,
Yeah, I
and
saw it in the theater too.
and it was I think he did a great job. I just remember feeling like the movie was just it felt a little slow, and I'm not sure why, but it was well done. I mean, the acting was great, the production was great, all of that. But I've also, as a kid, never liked that story. The idea of someone trying to ruin Christmas and that he was green and demonic and whatever. Like I I had I had a hard time getting on board with with just the story in general. But the Grinch is so popular, so
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah, and they recently made another Grinch movie with this guy, the guy who plays Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, really?
He's the voice of the Grinch, which is a fun movie. It's a fun movie. It's different. It's not the same movie. It's more of a modern take on the Grinch, um, and it's fine. This one, the movie, the Jim Carrey movie, the actual How the Grinch Stole Christmas concept happens at the very end. So a good, I would say, 2/3 of the movie is a new movie. It's not the same story. It's building up to why he hates Christmas.
Oh,
Where the special was already he hated Christmas, and we didn't know why. The
and,
movie
and
explains the why.
so this one that has Benedict Cumberbatch is where? Is that in the theater?
It came out a few years ago on theater, so now you could catch it on one of the streaming services. I'm not exact. I think it's on Netflix. I want to say
Okay.
because it was done by Illumination.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's definitely worth a watch. I watch it every year because it's another one of those movies that they play on Freeform all the time. 25 Days of Christmas. At least 6 of those days will be the Grinch.
Uh,
All
gotta love
right,
Freeform.
it's the only time I watch Freeform to tell you the truth. And they're not letting that go because I bet you there's millions of other Americans out there that watch Freeform only during the 25 days of Christmas.
Well, I mean, no different than Hallmark in the Christmas season. Like
That's
that's
their
their bread
bread and
and
butter, man. Right? Now let's talk about two movies that are not necessarily Christmas movies, but you can't argue that they're set in the holidays. Let's start with Batman Returns. All right, Batman Returns is awesome. I love. It's our second Tim Burton movie, by the way. Um, we have two John Hughes. We got two Tim Burtons. Go fig. Um, Batman Returns is set in the Christmas. The whole movie's set in Christmas, right? And I love my personal favorite. I love Christopher Walken in this movie. He's the best villain in this whole movie. He's better than Penguin. He's better than Catwoman. He is the best villain in this movie. That's
Well,
all I gotta say about
well,
that.
I will say I've never heard of Batman Returns being referred to as a holiday movie. Die Hard, yes, I remember people saying that is a legitimate holiday movie, but the Batman, it just never even occurred to me that yeah, it happens during Christmas and stuff, but it doesn't give you all the holiday
oh,
feels.
oh no, it got the tree, it got the music, it's there. In fact, if you look at the image, it's kind of hard to see it, but if you look at the image, there's Christmas decorations behind them.
Oh yeah, yeah, I see it. And that's the thing is that even in the comics, Batman and Christmas, when they would try to do some holiday stuff, I'm like, Batman, there's nothing about Gotham that makes me feel like Christmas is happening. Like that just makes Halloween, sure, but you cannot tell me that anyone wants to be in Gotham for the holidays.
Come on, man. You never watched Christmas with the Joker? That's the best holiday special
Oh my
ever.
God.
I
Yeah.
watch that every year, man. Every year on Christmas, I watch Christmas with the Joker. It's the best. You know?
Die Hard, I haven't been able to find it on any of the streaming stuff, but I would totally watch that. I mean, I love Bruce Willis in that. I know that the Die Hard movies. I think I saw Die Hard 2. I never saw the first one.
Really? The first one is obviously the best one. The second one is okay. Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is the third one with Samuel L. Jackson, is awesome. That movie is great. It's more about John McClane now. It's not about the whole concept of Die Hard, but it's about we moved away from he's stuck in a certain precarious position. Instead, they're using New York City as that that thing. So it's more open to New York City, and that movie's great. It's set in the summertime, so it's definitely not a Christmas movie. Um, but Die Hard, there's so much Christmas in Die Hard that you cannot say that it's not there. And the director will tell you differently, just like the director of A Nightmare Before Christmas says that it's a Halloween movie rather than a Christmas movie. But
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah, so but with Die Hard, man, there's Christmas everywhere in Die Hard. There's Christmas music in Die Hard. There is presents. There's Santa. It's all there. And you got John McClane being the best character ever. This movie was set to be doomed, and there's so much that had against it. But when they got Bruce Willis in the movie, which at that time he wasn't an action star, he was the guy from Moonlighting.
Right.
This was his first. This was really his big break, and he became that character. This John McClane is by far one of my favorite characters of all time. Bruce Willis, on the other hand, he's been through things, but as far as John McClane, I love John McClane, man. I wish he was my dad. So those are the honorable mentions. Now, I wouldn't want to end this stream that we have right now without talking about new holiday classics that could be happening. Now, this year, we have 4 movies coming out. Well, they're not really movies, but 3 of them are movies. One of them is a special. You got the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which dropped last week. I did get to see it. You have Violent Night, which is coming out this weekend on theaters. A Christmas Story Christmas, which came out a few weeks ago. I did get a chance to see it. And I recently saw Spirited on Apple Plus that came out also this week. From the 3 that I seen, I loved all 3 of them. I really liked it. Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special was hilarious, man. You got a chance to see it, right?
I did. I watched it. I didn't know. I had no idea what to expect. And with Guardians of the Galaxy, what I will say is that it with that particular MCU with those movies is that it's hard to tell what were just random jokes that they decided to build on and what were they actually making a joke because they were like they were setting it up for something great. It's hard to tell because the humor, the jokes, everything is all so random, or at least it feels that way. But it was great. And in this picture you see Mantis, that's her name, right?
Yeah, Mantis.
So like Mantis she hasn't really been so much in the forefront um of the movies and stuff
And
like
let's
that.
face it, she
It was
wouldn't have been either.
Yeah, so it was nice to see, the characters kind of get some of the spotlight and stuff. But I thought it was great. It really was a fun movie to watch.
The one thing I will say about the movie that I thought was so funny to me was when Drax sees the balloon character and he's like, I need to have it. I have to have it. And he was like, he had to hold on for dear life. And then she did something similar. She had the cane. and she leaves. I think was it her that left the cane or something like that? She left it, or was it Drax that left it? I don't remember.
He had she made him leave it.
She made him leave it. He's all upset about it. That
Yeah.
was great. And of course, rocket in the arm.
Yeah, it's funny, those the little gifts, and then like all the gifts that they get towards the end all have special meaning. And I really love how with Guardians of the Galaxy, if you watch them all, you really get such a payoff.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good about that. That if you watch the first one, then you watch the second one, and any of the other stuff that they've done in the other movies. But it was great. I thought that Gamora was going to be in it somehow.
No, we know no Gamora here. But that was the concept, right? Peter was sad because Gamora was gone. And it's Christmas time, and they thought that the way they saved Christmas was to get the greatest hero of all time, Kevin Bacon, which was great. Now Kevin Bacon canon, right?
So the Gamora at the end of Endgame, the one who came from the other timeline, where'd she go?
So Gamora is, there's two approaches, right? There's the first timeline. The original Gamora is dead. Right.
The one who kicked him in the nuts, and then the other one was like, it was
that is
for him or a tree.
That is past Gamora, who is now an alternate version. So she's actually a variant now, if you really look at it from that perspective.
But where did she go?
That's the concept of Volume 3 is to search for Gamora.
Okay.
So she went to, I guess, to go find herself.
Okay.
Because now her
that
life
movie
is
comes out
meaningless.
May 5th. Yes.
Yeah, and I think there's a trailer out, so I got to double check if the trailer came out.
Oh shit.
So there might be a trailer that's coming out. So there's that one. I'm gonna skip on Violent Night because there's not much to talk about because the movie is coming out soon. But one thing I will say about Violent Night is that as they're pitching it, Die Hard meets Home Alone, where the villain, who is played by John Leguizamo, he's going to terrorize a rich family, and Santa, because there's a little girl that believes in Santa is going to save them. And this is R as they come. This is an R-rated movie. So that's why it's called Violent Night. And Santa's down on his luck. And he wants to spread some Christmas cheer. David Harbour, man, he picked some crazy roles, man. But help, David Harbour's, he's Santa now. So that's Violent Night. It's coming out this weekend. Go check it out if you get a chance to. I'm gonna eventually see it. I don't know when I'm gonna see it. I'm not gonna go to theaters because I don't have the time to go see it, but I do want to see it. Christmas Story Christmas is set in the 70s. So Ralphie's all big, and there's a lot of the same similar tropes, and a lot of the cast from the original movie is in this movie. So in this movie, Ralphie is a writer, right? So they're keeping the concept that he's a writer, and he's trying to get his big break, and he's unable to get his big break. But he gets a phone call from his mom that his father passed away. So the dad in the movie has passed away, and he goes back to the house and kind of like relives his childhood. He sees his old friends. He sees the bully, and it's just really the story of him going back to his home. It's a good movie. It's my family liked it. They enjoyed it. It's not Christmas Story. It's not going to be Christmas Story, but it's a good follow up. It's Ralphie, and he's doing a lot of it's a lot of the same stuff that Ralphie did then. So that's a Christmas Story. Spirited is also a good movie. It's a modern take on a Christmas Carol, but there are a lot of twists that come in the movie. Now the movie is, I want to say, it's a soft PG-13. So it's not like Christmas Vacation. Well, it's similar to the Christmas Vacation, I'll say. It's a soft PG-13, so it has a lot of adult humor in it. But what's great is that Will Ferrell's character, he's the ghost of Christmas Present, and they go to get Ryan Reynolds' character, who's pretty much the Scrooge in the movie. But the funny thing about the movie is that Ryan Reynolds' character is so convincing that he's getting all the ghosts to stay on his to be on his side in some way. So instead of them trying to convince him, he's actually he's getting them to be he's convincing them to be like him. So and it does come across with a lot of twists and turns. It's a smart comedy, and it's Ryan Reynolds, it's Will Ferrell being Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. So if you like them, go check it out. It's on Apple Plus. I recommend it. I enjoy it. Is it going to be an all-time classic? I would say time will tell. Now I did a poll on YouTube on the community channel, and I wanted to let everybody know what was the poll. Um, and I'm going to share that information now. So if I'm going to I'm going to go into my channel here, and with that said, in the poll I had, see how many people I had. 93 people voted, so I had a good amount of votes here, and they said 48% of all the votes that came in said that Violent Night's going to be the next classic. And Christmas Story is the second. It's on 22%. Guardians of the Galaxy is 19%, and Spirited is 11%. So that's where we are with the polls. So
well, I mean, but Violent Night has the most. To me, it sounds the most original, right? It's a little, in terms of setting it apart. Although Spirited, I like that it has that twist to it. So we'll see how they can play that off. But
it's really smart too.
Yeah, but just in terms of like a down on his luck Santa trying to, kick butt, to me it sounds, especially because it's that actor who's playing him. So
David Harbour.
So it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Achilles, man, we're almost at 2 hours, man. We've been talking a lot, man, but it's been so much fun talking about these movies and things like that.
Yeah, and it's been good because now, one, I'll rewatch I will watch Christmas Lampoon and or Christmas Vacation. I got to rewatch the Muppets one because I totally forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. I'll watch Love Actually. I'm not sure I could get through Medea.
Well, and the thing for Love Actually is that it is, I think, 4, possibly 5 different stories.
Which I actually do like movies like that. So those movies like Valentine's Day, where there are multiple stories going on simultaneously.
Multiple stories, and each one has its own very unique tone to it. So it's like, if you don't care for this particular love story, this other one, is very different. So, and I thought it was all really, really well done. And the acting was great. But Medea, I mean, what I would recommend for Medea is like to watch a couple YouTube clips and just see,
and then you get the movie
and just get some of those scenes, her explaining the birth of Jesus. I can't remember what she called Jesus in terms of his name, but it was all very funny. But yeah, with Medea, I would say just watch a few of the YouTube clips, and that might be enough for you.
Cool, awesome. All right, man, let me let you go. But before I let everyone go, I just want everyone to know that I do have a Patreon channel. So if you could always support the Patreon channel, you're also welcome to leave a tip here on the YouTube channel. Of any size will be helpful. We're trying to do a lot of stuff with this channel. I'm trying to improve the channel, and the best way to do it is I need money. So if you guys help us out, You could do a super sticker, a super chat. You can leave a thank you. Or if you go to Patreon and become a Patreon, you just go to patreon.com, Izzyverse, and that will get you to do a Patreon. Also, just let everyone know that I do have promo codes. I do have affiliations. The first one I have is with BCW Supplies to get comic book supplies. All you have to do is use promo code Izzyverse. There is a link in the descriptions, as well as being able to go to Comic Exposure and you get 15% off your comic books there with promo code Izzyverse. Whatnot, you get $15 if you signed up with Whatnot. You'll get a $15 credit off of any purchase that you want from Whatnot. You don't have to be comic books. It could be whatever it is. It's auctions all the time. And this Monday is our next show. We got the comic book haul Mondays at 6:30. It is official. We're going to be talking about gargoyles. And yes, we'll still be talking about the Amazing Spider-Man Eminem book that came out. There'll be some discussion there. And whatever happens between now and then, I, as well as my co-host Josh, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. So we got a lot of comic book talk coming up. Achilles, man. Mondays, 6:30. That's what we talk about, our comic books. What are you doing right now, Achilles? What you been up to lately in Quakertown?
I'm running planetachilles.com where there's all kinds of merch, books. I Love My Blended Family hardcover book I just came out with, which is it's a children's book where it's illustrated to easily show kids how families can grow, modern families can grow, and then living in different homes, shared custody, all that kind of stuff. But it's shown in a fun way, and step parents are presented in a fun way as opposed to the bad rap they usually get.
Yeah. Awesome. I see Josh has left his mark. He says, I'm not going to say anything about gargoyles. There's a lot to talk about gargoyles. They're going to get the comic book back. So we'll talk. I'll talk about gargoyles, Josh. So Josh and I have been doing we've been having a blast doing the comic pull list on Mondays at 6:30, man. You got to stop by one time with Keely's and talk a little bit about the
I wrote it down. 6:30 on
Monday 6:30. It's a fish. That's when we're doing it. Monday 6:30 to whenever we're done talking, and it's been fun, man. Anyway, Achilles, man, as always, it's always a blast seeing you. It's always a blast talking to you. Until next time, guys.
Yes, and thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, man.
Like a great way to start off the month of
Right
December.
on December 1st, man. 25 days till Christmas. All right, guys. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Feliz Navidad. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. We didn't even talk about any of the Jewish movies. We got 8 Crazy Nights. I saw a little bit of it. That's all I got. Anyway, guys, celebrate with your loved ones, and be good this year, guys. Until next time, Excelsior.
All right, take care.